The next show we're going to be talking about is Death March to the Parallel World Rhapsody.
This one was one of mine, and it seems very interesting. Story for this one is the story of the light novel series and manga follows a 29-year-old programmer who is on a death march. But one day he wakes up in another world after a nap. From a meteor shower, he happens to gain vast riches, and he decides to go sightseeing. So begins his heartwarming, occasionally serious, and harem adventure in another world. That just kind of caught my attention, and I will say that at the beginning of that, it almost reminded me of In Another World with my smartphone.
Mm-hmm.
The way it just seemed like it kind of like, oh, he just happened to come to another world. It's like, okay, weird, but sure, why not? And then he starts an adventure. But, of course, afterwards, I, of course, looked at the trailer, and it looks good. The animation style I enjoy. Nothing, like, huge about it, but it still seems quite good. And it seems like a nice, lighthearted kind of journey. We're not taking things too seriously. We're just going around, and it kind of brings me back to like fantasy roots in its own right, where there's really no like we're not talking about some big giant quest here, or stopping some evil demon king or whatever. And like, you know what? Nope, we're just gonna go explore this world. And as long as they actually have an interesting world in which to explore, I'm okay with that. Because I think that's probably one of the biggest things, honestly, that you could have is if you're gonna put out something like that, then I want you to like follow through with it and actually have really ingenious little interesting things to say about it. And this is done by Silverlink, who was just recently doing a Restaurant to Another World. So apparently they're on a kick with that right now.
Yeah,
Let's go to other worlds here.
Yeah.
But like even for that anime, the Restaurant to Another World, there was so much going, like most of it was focused on the restaurant, but there was so much going on outside the restaurant that I was always interested. Like I never felt gypped when they're like, oh, well, we're going to introduce this character in their world, what's happening to them, and then they're going to come to the restaurant. I always was like, every time they showed the character, I'm like, okay, now I see where that character's from, because maybe they showed him as a cameo in the restaurant when they're talking about somebody else, and they're like, oh, yeah, no, cool, that's how they met up, and that's their life, and that's how they do this. So I have good faith that they can accomplish something good with this. As far as whether or not that will happen, I don't know, but at least we'll take it on good faith.
Okay. I think I had watched the trailer for this one, and there was something about it that I don't know, it didn't catch my attention completely, because I know I like Silverlink shows and stuff like that, but
of course, I mean, they've even done, they can at least do characters too, because they did Kokoro Connect too, so.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I may give this one an episode just to check it out. But, depending on how much otherworld kind of fantasy, like, basically, all the shows that are coming out now that are otherworld, those shows have basically taken the place of fantasy shows. Like, you don't really see any pure fantasy shows anymore. It's, the whole premise is, we're in the regular world, and then now we're in the fantasy world, whether it's a game or, some other type of fantasy, but you always start somewhere and then end up in another place. The latest show that's come out that has been just straight up fantasy is Made in Abyss, and this one says in another world, so I'm curious if it's still following that train about other world shows, or if it's going to be a lot of fantasy.
See, I think I'm okay with that, but again, they're gonna have to do something, because at this point, like you said, it's kind of been saturated with that the genre at this point. So if they do something interesting with it, I'm all about it. I'm definitely down for watching it and seeing what's going on. And I feel like, I don't know, there are times when they have like, say for instance, In Another World with my smartphone, where they took the technology or they took the knowledge someone had from our world and brought it into their world, the other world, and were able to succeed in that regards because of that. But I kind of feel like if this does not necessarily have that, if the character is more freeform and not relying, on his supremacy in regards to his knowledge or whatever from our world and to going into this world, I think I could probably definitely get behind the characters and the overall story for it.
Okay.
Because beyond that, we're at this point, we've done that so much, and I'm just like, come on, we need to do something a little bit different than that. Just vary it up a little bit, something.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Okay. Cool.
By the way, also, I love how the fact that at the description they just ended it right there with saying one day a mysterious girl known as 02 appears before him, and two horns grow.
What Shaft is gonna do with it, because I know Shaft for all of the weird camera angles and like characters like looking over the like looking